You guys are good? You guys are good? You might be a little bit, fed up with this usual thing of speakers changing one after the other. I mean, you guys have been doing this for what, 3, 4 days? But this will be quick. The session will be quick, and hope and pray that this will be reflective for every one of us, so that we can appropriate a lot of things. This is one of the last classes that you'll have for the entire workshop. So yay, can we give ourselves a clap for that? And a pat on the back for making it this far. And we'll see the outputs later on. This class is called Producing Events That Sell. And it's a quick look on effective events production. How some of the big brands do it, how we as Adventists usually do it, and finally wrapping it all up with what we can do to appropriate all of this in our local context. And when I say quick look, it's simply a glimpse of what we can do. Because events production is a long and very in-depth process, and it requires, longer than 30 minutes for me to do all of that. But we'll take a quick look and take some from it. I am Ford Filomeno, and I'm currently a lead multimedia creative at, again, as what brother has introduced earlier, at a global advertising agency. So what we do is give brands, we give brands activations and launches. We run their events so that it would take part in their entire marketing campaign. So most of the brands that you see in retail, for example, in supermarkets, in groceries, are launched by the agency I work with. And I'm also the creator and founder of the shirt that I'm wearing. It's called Disciple Apparel, and we partnered with Pastor Jasper for its mission. Okay, we're starting off with a quick activity. This will be quick, right? So what you'll do is tell me, right? You can shout from your seat. Tell me who these graphics are made for. Who's their target audience, okay? I'll be showing you a photo. Just by looking, you don't know the context of it, you don't know the title, you don't know when, where this will happen. Just by looking, just by the graphics. For example, you see this while scrolling on Facebook, or you see this in a billboard or in a poster somewhere. Okay, I'll show you one photo. Kids, yeah, because we see the astronauts, we see the planets, we see colorful elements. We know, even before reading the Kiddie Crew, we know this is for kids because it's clear with the visuals, the elements that they're producing, that this is meant for kids. Okay? Okay, you'll do the same thing with the next graphic, okay? Oh no. Who are we trying to reach here? It might be young professionals, maybe. It might be students, middle-aged, soccer moms. I mean, this graphic can go anywhere, and when we take a look at this, it's unclear what to who we are speaking. And then take note that I'm not criticizing the design of it. No, we're just looking at who this graphic is made for, okay? And then when you put them side by side, you can see the clear difference on the clarity of their message. Okay, why is that important? Why is that important? Because as we go in events production, in events planning, this is the first thing that we have to understand. Effective events speak to their audience. All right, and what do we mean by that? What do we mean by that? Events are in the corporate world, in the brand world, events are very hard to produce. You need a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of effort. You need manpower, you need logistics, you need ingress team, you need egress team. You need a lot of things to produce a certain event. So imagine all those stuff. And then when you run the event, you don't know who you're speaking to. When you run the event, you don't know your target market. Or worse, you know your target market, but they're not listening because you're not speaking their language. Okay? Here's a few examples of the events I help run. In the Philippines, McDonald's, the fast food chain, I don't know if this is across the globe or just Philippines or just Southeast Asia. But here in the Philippines, there's an event called Kiddie Crew. And it's a summer workshop for kids. I think ages 12 below. And it's a summer workshop to teach them a lot of values like diligence, integrity, stuff like that. And at the end of it, there's a grand graduation. It's meant to be attended by those who came to the workshop and then they'll graduate. So last year, McDonald's did that. And I was privileged to be a crucial part in launching this event. This was held in SMX Convention Center in Pasay. It's a big events place, and I helped run this. So look at how elaborate the stage design is. Look at how much effort is put into getting everyone together, inviting all the kids together, and then setting up the stage, and then doing all those stuff, and then running the graduation. This event was, I think, for one Sunday, and it ran for two runs. So there was a morning run and an afternoon run, and this cost McDonald's Philippines 10 million pesos. For one event. This cost them 10 million pesos for one event. You can just search for that in how much that is in your local currency or in dollars. But I think everywhere we go, that's a big amount. That's a big amount. And the thing here is that they weren't gunning for direct profit, but they were gunning for brand engagement and retention. I was gonna put another one, but yeah, it's just brand engagement and retention. So take a look at this. McDonald's, a multinational company across the globe, I think they have presence in all of the countries, except for a few, spent 10 million, spent multi-million to speak to their audience. And not for profit, but simply for brand retention and brand engagement. Right? They weren't there for profit, but they were there for brand engagement and retention. Believe our church has spent some figures around that amount, but it's anecdotal that we can say that so what happened here in McDonald's is that during the event, so they promoted this for like weeks, no? They did that in their stores, and then come event day, 20,000 kids showed up. And they came from all around the metro. They came from outside Metro Manila. They came from very far places just to attend that event. 20,000 kids showed up. What happened to their brand engagement and their social media engagement was that they spiked. So through, I think this was in the middle of the year last year. What happened to their brand engagement is that for the rest of the year, before that event, they were just plateauing on their social media engagement, so you could see that in the stats. After this event, their brand engagement spiked. It had a huge spike on their social media engagement because it was that successful. Everyone was talking about it. Every parent, guardian, aunt, and uncles were talking about how good, how fun, and how cool, and how enjoying the event was for the kids. And that's what they want to do. That's what McDonald's was trying to do. Not for profit per se, but simply to retain the brand. Yeah? Simply to have brand engagement. Okay? So that's clear. Brands, multinational companies can spend lots and lots simply for just brand engagement. And I know you won't be surprised when I say that the church, our church, the Seventh-day Adventist Church, can also spend something close to that. We have the means, we have the budget to spend something close to that. But the sad thing is, it's hard to measure the success. Case in point. This one was a recent event. I actually went to this, and I think the design is good here. But what usually happens with Adventist events is we don't know who we are speaking to. Or we have an idea who we want to speak to, but we don't know how to speak their language. So we simply create events just for the sake of creating it, or just for the sake of having something rolling, which is a good attempt. But practically, we're putting all of our effort and time and energy and money for church members to go to. When events like this happen, so I came to one of these events, and I have been going for a long time. And when you come to one of the nights, most of the people you see are people you already know. Yes? Most of the people you see are people you already know. They come from multiple churches simply to support, because we need support. We need support from our churches. Why? Because there's no support from outside. So we need to pour in support from the inside. And we're spending millions in this. So, again, we have to speak to our target audience. And this is because, primarily, that high budget doesn't always mean high impact. Right? Let's repeat that again. High budget does not always mean high impact. And what do we mean by that? It means that it's not causation, it's not causing the impact when we put in more budget. So, the impact that the event makes does not depend on how much it costs. Yeah, on how much it costs. I'm going to tell you a quick story, so be quick. In early 20, when the pandemic restrictions were easing, and there's lots of room, there's more room at least to move, less restrictions, you can have gatherings. A few of my friends and I decided to finally try an idea that we've been craving for years. We finally have we were finally afforded to actually create that idea. So we have, again, just a few friends of mine and myself. We have no budget. We have very few manpower. We have no sponsorships from any church, because it's an independent initiative. But we finally decided to pull off this idea. And so in February of 2022, we launched the first worship night. During the first event, a handful came, and we just did that on the rooftop of Michael Vorona's house, our speaker for the last days. We just did it on the rooftop. It was that. Look at that. It was just the rooftop. We just put lights, we put projector and screen, a few of the instruments, and we had to transport the amps and the instruments, and they were heavy, through a spiral staircase. It was very independent initiative. It was very makeshift, but we did it. We had to do it. We wanted to do it because we had an idea and we wanted to see it happen. So one event after another. That was still in the rooftop. No, one event after the other, we see our attendance double, triple, and quadruple. What we wanted to create was simply a safe, authentic, and honest space for worship. We weren't really expecting much, but we just wanted to create for ourselves and for the people who need it a safe and honest and authentic worship where you can go to that event and let loose your inhibitions. Just worship your God in expressions that you know you can do, and expressions that would be natural to you. That was just the idea. We weren't expecting much of it. But one event after another, one worship night after another, we see our attendance double and triple and quadruple. And by the next thing we know, we were holding the rooftop wasn't holding us enough. It was very teeming with a lot of people, so we had to find a bigger venue. And so several months after, the crowd looks like this, and the setup looks like that. And then brands started coming in and asking if they can sponsor the event and advertise their brand during events. So the movement was growing, the word was spreading, and then the past few worship nights, the people that are there, the many people that are there, only about 20 to 30% are familiar to us. That means that the invites are inviting their invites, who are inviting their invites, and then so on and so forth. So this movement was growing. The idea was growing. And to start with zero budget, very few manpower, and really no sponsorships from anyone. It was just an independent idea. But we achieved the same impact. So on one hand, you have McDonald's PH, or all Philippines, who are willing to spend multi-million in budget for their events to achieve just brand retention and engagement. And they do this very, very wonderfully. They utilize every cent that they could do. So they're achieving high impact in a high budget. And on the other, there's independent initiatives like the worship night, starting with zero budget, very few manpower, and really no sponsorships from anyone. But we were able to achieve the same impact that we wanted to. And that's to gather people around a safe space where they can worship in all honesty. So then you ask, what then creates impact? What then creates impact? And the answer lies in these two questions. Am I speaking to my target audience? And are they listening? Yeah? What then creates impact? Let me repeat that. Am I speaking to my target audience? And are they listening? Because that leads us to our last point for this class. You have to know what you're doing. You have to know what you're doing. And that simply means that you have to be aware and knowledgeable of the things that you're doing. Again, events are very hard to actually produce. You need preparation, you need weeks. if not months of preparation. You need equipment, if you're able to do that. You need to get manpower. You need to get a lot of things rolling, logistics and stuff like that, for one event to happen. I mean, just ask the event organizers for this, just ask Tony and the rest of the Adventist Media Center how much stress they had to endure to pull this off, this 1 week long event. And I would tell you, they would just laugh at the first time you ask that, because it's really burdensome and stressful. So we have to keep that in mind. Events are hard to produce because they would require a lot from you. So that means you have to know what you're doing in an event. Here's a quick rundown. If you really want to push through to an event, we're looking at 3 stages. And this is the last part already of my talk. We're looking at pre-production, event day, and then post-event. Okay? And then we'll look at what happens in each of the stage in quick succession. Okay, first thing that happens, what happens in pre-production is that the concept, the idea, the venue, the program, the visuals, the promotion, things that you need to prepare, things that you need to think of, goes here, pre-production. Everything that you need to prepare happens in the pre-production stage. This is usually called pre-prod in shortened colloquial versions. It's called pre-prod. But yeah, the concept, idea, venue, and everything really happens there. The permits, licenses, and payment, logistics, manpower also happens there. You have to secure permits for the venue, stuff like that. Manpower, licenses, can we do this? Can we do that? What's the limit of the equipment that we can get? So the key word here, the primary task, is preparation. Okay, preparation. At the end of the pre-production stage, there is what's called a pre-production meeting, or PPM, as it's usually called in the industry, PPM. What happens in PPM? Yeah? What happens in PPM? Everything and everyone that needs to be aligned is discussed during the pre-production meeting. So usually the project manager heads this meeting, and they're gonna, and the PM, the project manager, is gonna run through everyone of what they need to prepare, what has been prepared, what are the pending tasks to be prepared, what needs to be done, stuff like that. Because the PM is gonna align. Again, the word is align, because you're lining everything together so that you're on the same page. And the weakness, the crucial weakness that I saw in Adventist events management is that we skip PPM. We skip the pre-production meeting. So we do all the preparation and then assume, and then assume that everyone is on the same page. So that when event day happens, things spin out of control because we're not aligned. So the pre-production stage ends with a pre-production meeting. So it's a moment to clarify questions. It's a moment to answer a lot of things. It's a moment to do all of that. Event day, come event day. A pre-production meeting usually happens a few days before the event, even as late as 1 day before the event. Come event day, this starts with ingress. Ingress is what you call the setting up of the venue. So equipments come in, the necessary manpower comes in, everything is hooked up together, stage design is made, stuff like that. It's called ingress. And if possible, if the budget and manpower is capable, there is an ingress team. Let me move so that you can see. There is an ingress team. That ingress team is capable for ensuring that the ingress is smooth. Okay? The primary task here is execution. Execution. the things that you discussed in the pre-production stage, the things that you have prepared for, the things that you have made, that you have really spent a lot of time and weeks preparing, it finally happens here on the event day. It's finally brought to life. But pre-prod and event day have to be intimately linked. Okay, what does this mean? Pre-prod and event day have to be intimately linked. Meaning, what is aligned during pre-production should be the one executed on event day. You cannot cut those two. You cannot prepare something and then execute another. Here's another story. For multinational companies, they hold annually, usually, what's called a national sales convention or a sales rally. And what this event does is get their sales team, their salesperson on the same page, and set the target for the year. So for example, Coca-Cola bottlery would target 3 billion bottles sold by the end of this year, so something like that. So, one multinational company, Colgate-Palmolive, was doing that last year. And they did it in Okada, Manila. Okada, Manila is an events and casino place in Manila. That's very expensive as an events place. It's very, very expensive. Like the cheapest that you can get is around hundreds of thousands, 500,000 pesos for one ballroom. And that could go up to like tens of millions per event on the venue. So, expensive events place, but Colgate-Palmolive did their national sales convention there. Okay, so we did the PPM. I was there during the pre-production meeting. The director was doing all the preparation. The project manager was discussing this and that. The suppliers were also there. So it was aligned, clear, during pre-production. Come event day, during ingress, so they rolled in around 3 a.m. in the morning. They rolled in very early. When it was time to set up the LED wall, this one, because in events this is usually rented, the LED wall. When it was time to set up the LED wall, the supplier of the LED wall was unable, for some reason or another, was unable to communicate that they had to change something in their LED wall. What ended up happening was that the LED wall that was brought in during the event day is different than what they declared during pre-production meeting. So they rolled in at 3 a.m. We didn't know that it was a different specs LED. I think it was a different size, different resolution. Forgot the exact problem. And it was time to link the visuals with the LED wall. It won't show the right picture. It won't show the stretched and funky and crazy, really. Visuals were going everywhere. And it was already 6 a.m. The event starts at 9 a.m. The event starts at 9 a.m. It was already 6. And it was crazy how it wasn't, and they had a different personnel than what was aligned in PPM. So what happened was that the event for 9 a.m. was moved to 4 p.m. And if you know corporate world, moving events like that costs a lot of money because you're moving everything to accommodate for that. So the 9 a.m. was moved to 4 p.m. and everyone was losing their mind because we only rented the place for I think just after lunch and stuff like that, but it had to move to the afternoon. It was crazy. My point there, but the event happened in the end, so it was good. But my point there is that had the supplier communicated that they would be doing a different stuff, that they would be rolling in a different thing, and that there would be changes, and that if the project manager had assured of those stuff and followed up, things like that, we could have done preventive measures and saved ourselves and the company from a lot of embarrassment, a lot of stress, and a lot of really, really unpleasant feeling during that day. That's a story to make the point that the pre-production and event day have to be intimately linked. During post-event, what we do here is review and evaluate what happened during the event. Uh, See what worked. Oops, sorry. During post-event, what we do there is review and evaluate. Review the things that worked, review the things that didn't work, and what we can do moving forward. So the key task in post-event is evaluation of what had happened, what had transpired. And this is really, really important because you can have an event and it's really good or it's really bad, but you don't have a way of knowing whether it's good or bad or whether it did the right impact you wanted it to do, you wanted it to have an impact on. You wouldn't know because you weren't reviewing, you weren't evaluating, you weren't doing post-event. So this is very important. Okay, so these are the 3 stages of events production that you have to ingrain really on your mind. Pre-production, event day, and post-event. So when you do this in your own local context, and the beauty of these 3 stages is that it's scalable. This can work with big events and concerts like Taylor Swift or Bruno Mars events. They're doing this same thing. And you can also do that in events of just 5 people, 5 manpower, doing a digital event. For example, no, you're just live streaming, you have 5 people with you, that could still work. That's the beauty of the 3 stages. I'm leaving with this. Hold on. Whoops. Ooh. Okay. I wasn't able to update this one. Anyway, let's just leave it at that. In other words, events are hard to produce. Yeah? Events are hard to produce. But if you're willing and if you decided to actually push for it, make it count. Make it count. Why? Because you poured in everything, you poured in effort and the time and money. And you're not going to make it count. I mean, it doesn't make sense. Much better if you don't push through with the event. You're going to save yourself a lot of things. You're going to save yourself time and effort and money if you're not going to push through. If you're going to push through to an event that is half-hearted and half-prepared. So, here's the key in events production. If you're doing it, if you're going to push for it, you have to make it count. Or, in other words, as what Michael Verona has reiterated a few days ago, make sense, bro. You have to make it make sense. Why? Why? Because if multinational companies and big brands that are ultimately gearing and gunning for simply profit, for more business, if they can do it, if they can do events very beautifully and very gracefully and very innovatively, and their reason for that is, we might say, shallow, because it's a material thing. They're doing it simply for the money. If they're doing that with profit, with just profit in mind, and they're doing it good, then why can't we, as Adventists, as Christians, as agents of God's kingdom, why can't we do it very beautifully for God's purpose? 1 Corinthians 10:31, whether we eat or drink, or whatever we do, including events planning, you help me finish it. Do it for? Thank you for listening.
Yellow, can you join me here for a minute?
Okay.
You know, it seems from what you shared with us, your experience in working with events, it can be out of our scope, right?
For sure.
I mean, the price itself. when Pastor Hesh was trying to share earlier with the audience of the difference of producing content or doing like a church program or a religious production, the price could vary because it could be, in a sense, I'm not saying that it doesn't have value. I'm saying it's cheaper financially to create a program or an event for Adventists than it is for people from outside of our church. What would be your take, and with your experience, what would be the simple steps that we could take that we could bring more value to our productions, more value to our church programs as we advertise them beyond our circle of the community?
It's a very good question. So the question, Tony, is on scale, right? The question is on scale. That, okay, these brands have multi-million budget to spend. What can we do if we have like just, maybe money out of our own pocket to do it? The answer lies in our first point earlier. We have to speak to our target audience. What does that mean? That means that we have to know, we have to determine what matters most for our target audience. For example, if we're talking to, let's give a concrete example. If we're holding, let's say, an open mic event, an open mic event that's meant to invite non-believers, non-Adventists. We're meant to invite our coworkers, for example, office mates, friends, and into that open mic. We have to know what matters most to them. That means, Tony, that we have to be aware of their culture, that we have to be aware of the language they speak, that we have to be aware of the sentiments. Meaning, we cannot, as marketers, this is their bread and butter to actually know their target audience. Let alone as agents of God's kingdom, we have to know the people we're ministering to. So, for example, the open mic, it's an example. First, I'm thinking off the top of my head. First, you do it in a neutral place. You won't do open mic in churches or church basements. You would do it within walking distance from offices, for example. If you're gunning for office workers, you're gonna put in maybe guitar and electric guitar more than piano. I don't know if that makes sense. So meaning, we have to be aware and really be intimate with our knowledge of our target audience. So I think it all boils down to that.
Yeah.
No matter the budget, no matter the preparation, no matter the knowledge even, we have to know who we're speaking to.
Yeah, I like that point that you have there in analyzing how to figure out, or not figure out, but needing to know their language or their culture. Where do you think would lie the challenge for, let's say, earlier, we had Hope Channel up here with Pastor Chen and Chang, and he was presenting the night show. Right. That's totally a different context from what we were hearing from the audience, and not that there's a problem, but there's a perception, right? In building a relationship with that audience, what are the challenges that you face in trying to know the audience's language, so that we could maybe look for those cues or look in our neighborhoods or in our cities? What are those cues that you're looking for to understand the languages that we need to adjust to or to incorporate into our programming?
This is very good because I think you're leading into a point here. Because I think you're doing that, and that has been a problem also. My dilemma have been, how do I actually reach non-Adventists when all of my friends are Adventists? Yeah? Because I grew up in the church. I grew up in an Adventist school. spent a lot of my childhood and my teenage years in church activities, did everything really, Voice of Youth, crusades, you name it, bro. I really, really went through that. So the question is, how do I actually reach people my age, right? My contemporaries, when I don't even know as a single one that is not an Adventist. So I think that, no, not I think, I've seen and observed that to solve that problem, we have to immerse with them.
Okay.
We have to we have to kick out the thinking in our head,
mentality.
the mentality in our head that I have to refrain from befriending them because they're gonna drag me to hell. Truthfully speaking, because they're bad influence to me. We have to remove that thinking because it's clear in the gospel, in the scriptures, that what Jesus was really, making the disciples understand is that there's no Jews nor Gentile in our new sphere of influence. It's just all are children of God.
Yeah.
And I think we really have to get to that, to go outside our Adventist bubble and really get the sentiment why we are staying inside our Adventist bubble. I mean, you don't have to go out for anything anymore. We have schools, we have hospitals. Now we have media centers like this. We have a lot of things. I mean, we have publishing houses. We have radio channels. We have TV channels. It's really a one-stop shop for
the church.
really, and for the human life. But the danger in just looking simply at the bubble is that you get jaded lenses,
Yeah.
and you forget to see far beyond.
Correct. That sort of goes in line with what Pastor Chen was saying earlier. If everything is mission, nothing is mission.
That's
Because
very true.
everything's around that. Good point. Any questions from the floor about events, planning, pre-production, evaluation? Nothing? Okay. I think we're good. Ford, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
We'll see you later.
Thank you.
Bro.